Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at the Lenovo Legion Pro 516. Now this has been out for a while, but this is a great time if you're looking for a gaming laptop to get a decent price. And the reason is that a lot of laptop manufacturers throughout the spring and summer are getting ready for their new machines they're releasing in the fall. But something like this is going to be more than capable, even if it isn't the latest and greatest. And what we're going to be doing in this video is taking a look and see what this particular gaming laptop is all about. It's kind of at the mid-range of Lenovo's offerings. But I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that this is on loan from Lenovo. So when we're done with this, it goes back to them. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. No one is paying for this review, nor has anyone reviewed or approved what you're about to see before it was uploaded. So let's get into it now and see what the Legion 5 Pro is all about. Now the price point on this starts at around $1,200 at the moment with their i5 configuration, and that one has an NVIDIA 4060 GPU. This one is similar to the base model, except it has the i7 option, which is an i7 13700HX processor. This also has that NVIDIA 4060 GPU. The GPU is running at 140 watts max, so they've got a good amount of power going into this. So you will get, I think, some decent performance, not only for games, but also for video production and other things that make use of the GPU. In fact, in a prior video, we actually used this one to demo some on-device AI functions that made use of that GPU as well. This model, along with the base model, has 16 gigabytes of dual-channel memory, along with a 512 gigabyte NVMe SSD. A little bit earlier, I took it apart, and as you can see here, it's pretty nicely laid out. It's got another NVMe slot that's not occupied, and you can swap out the DDR5 RAM in the future if you want to do that as well. It's relatively easy to get inside. You just let some screws loose and get your little plastic spudger out there to separate the case, and you can very easily work on the machine. You can also see its cooling system in there as well. So just like other Lenovo Legion devices, it is very easy to work on. Now this does have a very nice display on board. It is a 16-inch display, IPS, running at 2560 by 1600. It's in a 16 by 10 configuration here, so it's a little taller than the 16 by 9 based displays we've seen on gaming laptops in the past. So it's well suited for gaming, but also for document editing and video creation and some of the other things that people are doing with these laptops. This is a 165 hertz display. It also supports NVIDIA G-Sync, so your games will not have a lot of screen tearing on them, and the GPU will vary the refresh rate in line with the display's capabilities. So all the games that we played on here looked and played great. It also is at 100% of sRGB for color, which again makes it suitable for some creative endeavors, but the brightness is only about 300 nits. But for a mid-range gaming laptop like this, I think it is very nicely paired with the hardware. Now, gaming laptops like this are not known for being lightweight, and this one is no exception. The weight on this one comes in at 5.5 pounds, or at 2.5 kilograms, and that does not include its power brick here, which is probably another pound that will be added to the mix. So be prepared to walk around with a heavy backpack, but you will have a lot of horsepower traveling with you, which is a good thing. Now, as far as build quality is concerned, this is mostly plastic, but it doesn't feel cheap. It's very thick. It doesn't have a lot of flex to it, but the Legion 7, which has a metal case, will feel a little bit nicer. Let's take a look at the keyboard and the trackpad, starting with the trackpad. It's a nice trackpad, nothing spectacular or fancy, but it functions well, it tracks well. No issues here. It is a physical click pad, so pretty simple and nothing fancy like some of these other ones we're seeing lately. The keyboard is also very nice. One of the things Lenovo has been doing over the last couple of years is improving the keyboards on these gaming devices. And what you got here is your standard Lenovo layout. You've got a number pad, but you also have a good amount of key travel. So as you're typing on it, you're going to have a good amount of physical tactile feedback, which I think is a very nice typing surface. So all in, the keyboard and trackpad look pretty good here. Additionally, you have a backlight. This is a zoned backlight. I'll pull up the software here. So you can't change the colors of individual keys, but you can change the colors of groups of keys, as you see here. So the other Legion laptop has more options for setting individual key colors, but here you just do it based on zones. They have a few presets like a breathing thing and a smooth thing, so you can kind of find the one that works best for you, and you can make it as obnoxious or as not obnoxious as you would like. But all in, a decent array here for the keyboard and the trackpad. Now it's got a 1080p webcam at the top. I think it actually looks pretty nice. It is only shooting though at 30 frames per second, so if you are in need of higher frame rates or higher resolutions, you will need, of course, to plug in external cameras. You've got a switch here on the side for turning the camera on and off, so if you turn the machine on and can't get your camera going, that switch is on the side. They used to have a function key for that. I'm going to close the lid here real quick though, and show you what is here for ports. And one of the things that I love about the Legion laptops is that most of the ports you need are in the back, so you don't have all these cables coming out of every direction, but you do have a few more ports on the side we'll look at in a second. Here you've got your gigabit Ethernet. This is a USB Type-C port. It is not Thunderbolt. It is not USB 4. It is USB 3.2 Gen 2. However, this port is full service, so you can actually attach 140 watts of USB-C power to charge the battery or operate the laptop for lower power-consuming tasks. So if you have a docking station at the office or something and you don't want to carry around its 300-watt power brick, you can use a USB-C adapter to give it enough juice to charge or do some basic tasks. But if you are gaming on it or really pushing that GPU, remember the GPU uses 140 watts on its own, so this power brick will likely come with you if you need to bring your power on the go. You can also do DisplayPort output on here. It supports DisplayPort 1.4. The HDMI here also works at the same time, so you can connect multiple 4K displays, for example, if you wanted a higher resolution out of this. You also have two USB-A ports here. These are running at the slower 5 gigabit per second standard, so this will be suitable for keyboards and mice and headsets and that sort of thing. But if you have a hard drive to plug in, I would use the USB-C port. The Legion 7 devices typically have the higher speed ports. So if you need Thunderbolt, especially for live video production, look at the Legion 7. That'll give you more flexibility for video input. Now on the side here, on the right-hand side, we've got a USB-A port along with that switch we talked about for the webcam and a headphone microphone jack. On the other side, we have another USB-A port. Again, 5 gigabits per second on all the USB-A ports. But over here, you've got another USB Type-C port. This is a Gen 2 port, meaning it runs at 10 gigabits per second, so suitable for external storage. But this port does not support power in or video out. So the rear port is a little more functional, but you do have a second high-speed port here if you need it. Now let's talk briefly about battery life here. Your experience will vary greatly based on what you're doing with it. If you're playing games, expect maybe an hour or two, maybe a little bit more if the game is not all that demanding. But if you're doing basic work on this, like a spreadsheet or a word processor, even some limited photo editing, I think you could probably get about 8 to 10 hours out of the battery in my testing. There's also a few modes you can switch on here to give you a better shot at longevity. So you can see right now the power button here is red, and that means the laptop is in its high performance mode. This mode is not available when you're on battery, so right now I can draw as much power as I need to do everything I want. If I hit Function Q, you're going to see this turn blue, and in this mode it will keep the system running at a lower power level, so when you are on battery and working on that spreadsheet, you can get as much life out of the machine as possible. It also keeps the fan noise at a minimum because the system is not working all that hard, and therefore you're not going to hear the very loud fans that kick on when you're doing something more demanding. They also have another mode here called Auto, where the machine will try to figure out what the best mix of power settings it needs to enable based on what you are doing. So by default, it will do pretty well, but if you want to make sure you're getting the lowest possible power consumption or the highest, I would suggest using those blue and red modes here. All right, let's take a look now at a couple of games. First up, we're going to take a look at Starfield, a new and very demanding title. And what I did with this is I set it at the native resolution of the display, 2560 by 1600, and I turned off the dynamic resolution scaling that sometimes will turn the resolution down in certain parts of the game. But otherwise, I had it set to the high settings. And the game, of course, is very playable. It's running at around 60 frames per second. When I get into a more complex environment, like right here, it dips down to about 55. But certainly a very playable experience here. The fans are definitely going. You're going to hear those fans running on this machine, but I have no doubt you will be able to find a game mode that works at the resolution and frame rate that you want with a few quality settings here. Again, this has a 4060 GPU on board, and it seems to be performing quite well here with a very demanding title. Let's take a look at a few others. So here is Red Dead Redemption 2. This is a game we like to test on all of the machines that we review here on the channel. And here we were running at 2560 by 1600, the native resolution of the display, and we had everything set to the high setting. And here we were getting a very similar experience to what we had with the other game we just looked at, Starfield, where we were getting between 55 and 65 frames per second. So very good performance on a game that we typically see running at much lower frame rates on lower end machines. Now here we've got Doom Eternal, and this time we cranked everything to the max here. So we're running at the native resolution, 2560 by 1600, and we enabled the Ultra Nightmare settings with the ray tracing set to on. And here, as you can see, we're getting between 45 and 50 frames per second. Very playable at the highest quality settings here. And of course, any adjustments down in quality, even just turning the ray tracing off, will certainly get you north of 60. So fast games like this perform even faster on the hardware here. And again, all very impressive for what is essentially a mid-range gaming laptop. And on the 3D Mark Timespy benchmark test, we got a score of 11,408. And one thing to note on here is that the 4060 on the Legion Pro 5 is performing about the same as a 4070 on an Asus ZenBook Pro. And the reason for that is that the Legion here is running its GPU at 140 watts, and the Asus device is running its GPU only at 85. So you can see the advantages of putting more power at a GPU here insofar as performance is concerned. The Asus device was designed to be more portable. This one certainly wasn't designed with portability in mind beyond being able to carry it somewhere. So you have a lot more room to deal with the heat generated by that GPU and CPU. And to that end, we also ran the 3D Mark stress test, and there we got a passing grade of 99.4%, very little, if any, degradation in performance when the machine is placed under heavy sustained load. The trade-off, though, is that you're going to be hearing that fan running quite audibly over the course of your experience, especially if you're playing games or doing anything else that really taxes the GPU. The fan on this is quite loud, but that does give you the thermal performance to maintain its performance level over long periods of time. All right, one last thing to take a look at here, and that is its support for Linux. I've got the latest version of Ubuntu loaded up here, and everything seems to be working okay insofar as Wi-Fi and audio and Bluetooth and the display and everything like that. The NVIDIA GPU was also recognized here, but I am having an issue with the fan here. On this Linux desktop, pretty much sitting at idle, the fan is running almost at full blast. It's kind of varying its speed a little bit, but mostly staying at the same level that I typically hear it running at when playing a game. So although you will have some success with Linux, you will have to get in there and try to figure out how to get that fan and thermal controls working in a way that you're not going to hear that fan blowing 24/7. So overall, this is a very nicely performing laptop, even though it lacks some of the bells and whistles you might find on the Legion 7. So if you're just looking for raw performance here, especially for gaming, this will get you there. The best equivalent I can make with this is like the difference between a Camaro and a Corvette. You can get a Camaro with a lot of horsepower, very close to what you would get out of the Corvette, but the Corvette does look a lot cooler. But again, if you just need that raw performance, you will find it here, and you've got a nice display and an overall very mature design that Lenovo has been improving year after year. That's going to do it for this one. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold level supporters Brian Parker, Budley, Hot Sauce and Video Games, Steve Green, and Amda Brown. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/S.